go.
Watch out. These boys have got a bit of an arsenal and they don't mind using it. Smoke!
Has been planted.
Grenade out! Diffusing.
Bomb has been defused. Counter-terrorists win.
Let's go, people.
Laying down smoke.
Throwing smoke.
Throwing flashbang. Throwing fire. Grenade out. Throwing smoke.
Throwing fire.
Throwing a grenade. Flashbang.
Throwing a grenade.
Grenade. Incendiary out.
Counter-terrorists win.
Move! Incendiary. Laying down smoke.
Laying down smoke.
Throwing smoke. Grenade out.
Molotov. Throwing flashbang. Grenade out.
Throwing Throwing fire.
Terrorists win.
Let's go. Deploying flashbang. Smoke. Laying down smoke. Throwing a grenade. Throwing flashbang. Throwing flashbang.
Counter-terrorists win.
Are we rushing in, or are we going? Throwing fire. Throwing smoke. Smoke.
Smoke. Molotov.
Grenade out. Deploying flashbang. Flashbang.
Flashbang.
Throwing fire.
Grenade. Deploying flashbang.
Throwing flashbang. Deploying flashbang.
Counter-terrorists win.
flashbang.
Bomb has been planted.
Defusing bomb.
Bomb has been defused. Counter-terrorists win.
Move it, move it.
Smoke.
Laying down smoke. Incendiary. Grenade out. Flashbang. Smoke.
Fire in the hole.
Laying down smoke. Throwing fire. Flashbang. Deploying flashbang.
Deploying flashbang.
Counter-terrorists win.
Acquainted countrymen. Throwing flashbang.
Throwing smoke.
Smoke. Throwing fire. Flashbang. Throwing smoke. Throwing flashbang.
Molotov.
Incendiary out. Flashbang. Grenade. Deploying flashbang. Smoke. Grenade out.
Counter-terrorists win.
Gear up. We aren't going on a windy walk here. Incendiary. Throwing smoke. Throwing flashbang. Incendiary out.
Throwing
smoke. Throwing a grenade. Deploying flashbang.
Throwing fire.
Bomb has been planted. Terrorists win.
Flashbang.
Let's show them who we are. Throwing fire. Smoke. Flashbang. Throwing fire.
Throwing fire.
Grenade out.
Grenade.
Flashbang. Throwing smoke. Throwing flashbang. Grenade.
Terrorists win.
Let's move out. Throwing a grenade. Grenade
Grenade
out.
out.
flashbang. Smoke.
Bomb has been defused. Counter-terrorists win.
Right, lads. We're on. Throwing fire. Deploying flashbang. Laying down smoke. Smoke. Throwing fire. Deploying flashbang.
Bomb has been planted.
Grenade out.
Using the bomb.
Counter-terrorists win.
Flashbang. I'm throwing a flashbang. I'm throwing a grenade. I'm throwing smoke.
Terrorists win.
Forward. I'm throwing a flashbang. Burn. I'm throwing a flashbang. 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 Smoke. Throwing a flashbang.
Terrorists win.
I am planting the bomb.
Bomb has been planted.
We will defeat the mercenaries. Smoke. Throwing a flashbang. Smoke. Throwing fire. Smoke. Flashbang. Molotov. Flashbang. Throwing fire. Grenade. I'm throwing smoke. Planting.
Bomb has been planted.
I'm throwing a grenade.
Bomb has been defused. Counter-terrorists win.
Let's go. Smoke. Flashbang. Flashbang. enough, stubber.
Video games would be nothing without their villains, be they legendary monstrosities out to
2014. What a time to be a gamer. It was the year that Grand Theft Auto 5 was launched for 8th generation consoles, the year The Last of Us got remastered, and the year that many friendships were ended by blue shells once again, thanks to Mario and his karting buddies. Sadly, although there were a lot of great titles released in 2014, there were also a number of stinkers. And so we're back again to remind you of all the awful titles the games industry was kind enough to bestow upon us. By now you should be quite familiar with the rules of this series, but for those of you who aren't, here they are. A game can officially place amongst the 10 worst of 2014 if it was released in at least one territory during that year and received a bare minimum of 7 professional reviews. Those who show up with fewer are forced to live out their days in the underground bunker where we make James work. I'm Peter from Triple Jump, and here are the 10 worst games of 2014. Number 10. Enemy Front, Xbox 360, 35%. Sometimes it feels like you can't move for first-person shooters. Sadly though, for every Call of Duty and Battlefield, there are dozens of pale imitations, one of which just happens to be the first entry on our list. Enemy Front tells the story of Robert Hawkins, an American war correspondent, as he recollects his experience of aiding the resistance in Nazi-occupied Europe. If that sounds horrible, the games industry was kind again thanks to Mario and his karting buddies. Sadly, although there were a lot of great titles released in 2014, there were also a number of stinkers. And so we're back again to remind you of all the awful titles the games industry was kind enough to bestow upon us. By now you should be quite familiar with the rules of this series, but for those of you who aren't, here they are. A game can officially place amongst the 10 worst of 2014 if it was released in at least one territory during that year and received a bare minimum of 7 professional reviews. Those who show up with fewer are forced to live out their days in the underground bunker where we make James work. I'm Peter from Triple Jump, and here are the 10 worst games of 2014. Number 10. Enemy Front, Xbox 360, 35%. Sometimes it feels like you can't move for first-person shooters. Sadly though, for every Call of Duty and Battlefield, there are dozens of pale imitations, one of which just happens to be the first entry on our list. Enemy Front tells the story of Robert Hawkins, an American war correspondent, as he recollects his experience of aiding the resistance in Nazi-occupied Europe. If that sounds horrendously cliched to you, that's because it was. The game attempted to keep things fresh by skipping between flashbacks and the present day, but even that couldn't save the plot from feeling derivative. Enemy Front received a middling score of 52% for its PC release, but garnered a thoroughly miserable 35% for its Xbox 360 effort. Most complaints fell into one of two categories. The game was bland, and it was janky as heck. Plagued by bugs and shoddy AI, critics had no choice but to give the game terrible review scores. All in all, Enemy Front was a mishmash of mediocre ideas built upon shoddy technical foundations, and ended up being about as fun as getting trench foot. Which is actually a World War I thing, but whatever, I've said it now, it's too late. Number 9. 4 PM. PC, 35.57%. Up next, we have a game that was almost excluded from this list by our writer thanks to an Excel formatting error. There's no such game as 1600, thank you Microsoft Office, but there is a game called 4 PM, though most who played it wish that there wasn't. 4 PM follows protagonist Caroline as she awakens after a drunken evening at a nightclub to a voicemail from her boss demanding to know where she is. Once she arrives at work, she's reprimanded, retires to her cubicle to drink some more, and sneaks out of the office when 2 bottles of liquor aren't enough. The story, if you can call it that, was laughable. Clearly there was an attempt to make some sort of point, but most critics were confused as to what that point was. Was 4 PM a commentary on the dangers of alcohol? A warning against drink driving? Heck if I know. If the awful plot wasn't enough to put players off though, then the nauseating graphics, horrible voice acting, and downright offensive portrayals of alcoholism and suicide sure would have been. 4 PM may have only taken around 20 minutes to complete, but that's 20 minutes that could have been spent doing something more enjoyable, like pulling out one of your own wisdom teeth without an aesthetic. Next. Number 8. Escape Dead Island, Xbox 360, 32%. It's probably not unfair to say that Dead Island and its standalone expansion, Dead Island Riptide, aren't the best games in the world. But if you like zombies and feel like inflicting a bit of violence upon them, then they are, at the very least, passable. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said of Escape Dead Island. Players take on the role of Cliff, a thoroughly unlikable journalist who travels to Benoit in order to document the unexplained events that have been rumoured to have taken place. Unlike its predecessors, Escape Dead Island lacked any sort of RPG elements, and instead went for a more survival horror style approach, though most players agreed that the only thing scary about the game was just how bad it was. Critics were on the whole unimpressed by Escape Dead Island, with several levelling complaints at its visuals, gameplay, and the overall lack of variety when it came to the missions and enemies. There were some that praised the story, though it was noted that it would have been better as a graphic novel rather than a video game. Luckily, there was a very simple way to escape from Escape Dead Island, and that was by turning off your console. Number 7. Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric, Wii U, 32%. The Sonic the Hedgehog series has, over the years, had its ups and downs, but few of the low points over the course of the Blue Spiky Lad's 3-decade career have been quite as embarrassing as Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric. The game follows Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy as they try to prevent the villainous Lyric from obtaining the Chaos Crystals and using them to power an army of war robots. Upon its release, Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric was panned by critics. It bore all of the classic symptoms of a bad game, including unwieldy and unresponsive controls, a broken camera system, poor quality graphics, and tedious combat mechanics. It was also repetitive, the level design was uninspiring, and the dialogue was badly written and unfunny. As though all of that weren't enough, Sonic Boom was also buggy as heck, with one glitch in particular allowing players to bypass most of the game by pausing it in the midst of Knuckles' jump so he could soar to infinite heights. Thinking about it though, those players might have been the lucky ones. At least they didn't have to sit through the entire thing, am I right? Sonic Boom, more like Sonic Boo, with no M on the end, because rubbish. Oh, got him. Number 6. Magus, PS3, 32%. We cover a lot of games on this channel that can be described as bad, but it's not very often we're afforded the opportunity to look at a game that's so bad that it ends up being good. Now, to be clear, Magus was not a good game, but it was entertaining as heck. Set in the Waterfall Kingdom, the game revolves around the titular Magus. I'm assuming I'm saying that right. I mean, if I'm not, it's more that the game is saying it wrong and everyone else says it properly. And it tells the story of his escape from imprisonment and subsequent efforts to uncover his true identity and abilities. The game was laughably bad and received criticism for basically everything it tried to do. Its graphics were outdated, with some outlets even going as far to say that some PS2 titles looked nicer, the combat was repetitive, and it had an obscene number of bugs. Perhaps the one thing that Magus did have going for it though was it was absolutely hilarious, though not intentionally. The writing, dialogue, and voice acting were so poor that players couldn't help but laugh. And if it hadn't been for the $25 price point, it probably would have been worth picking up a copy for that reason alone. Sadly, Magus was a North American PS3 exclusive, so it's unlikely that we here at Triple Jump will get to play it in the future. Now that's the worst thing about this game. Number 5. Recoil, PC, 30.56%. You know what I hate? When companies replace letters in words in an attempt to make their product sound more cool and edgy. Case in point, Recoil. Why does it need the K? What was wrong with spelling it correctly? Alas, shoddy nomenclature was the least of Recoil's problems. The game was an online-only shooter in a similar sort of vein to Counter-Strike, in that players were plopped down into an arena and were tasked with shooting one another. But that's where the similarity to Counter-Strike and other such successful games ends, though, since Recoil was fundamentally broken. Getting into a match wasn't much of a problem, and aside from some painfully long load times, most players found entering a game to be a breeze. It's everything that came after that was a complete mess. One of the main problems was the spawning, as Recoil would often place players into the midst of a gunfight, plonk a whole bunch of them in the same spot, aka the spawn camper's dream, or put them right next to another player who would obviously proceed to shoot them immediately. Aside from this, Recoil was buggy, glitchy, laggy, and just about everything else you wouldn't want a game to be. It's fair to say that the only recoiling player
Counter-terrorists win.
Move it, move it.
Hello. हेलो बॉसेस आ जाएंगे ठीक है प्लेन बी
Let's go.
केयर मेट बी इज क्लियर इज इन पैलेस
Counter-terrorists win.
Let's have it, lads. Throwing fire. Incendiary. Laying down smoke.
अंडर
Smoke.
सारे अंडरपास मत जाओ जब नहीं मजा आए 2 दफा मर चुके आगे
Let's give it to them, boys. Incendiary out. Laying down smoke. Deploying flashbang. Grenade out. Smoke.
मेडिकल डिगल 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 Find range.
Terrorists win. Bomb has been planted.
Grenade. Throwing fire. Throwing flashbang. Throwing a grenade. Laying down smoke. Decoy. Roger that.
Terrorists win. Bomb has been.
Gear up. We aren't going on a windy walk. Throwing smoke. Deploying decoy. Throwing fire. Smoke. Flashbang.
Terrorists win.
Let's go. Smoke. Incendiary out. Throwing a grenade. Throwing fire.
Market.
Terrorists win.
Move! Incendiary. Grenade out. Deploying flashbang. Deploying flashbang. Throwing fire. Incendiary out. Throwing smoke.
Terrorists win.
Kicked off, someone kicked out.
Move it. Throwing fire.
B.
Incendiary. Grenade out. Laying down smoke. Flashbang.
Underpass.
Smoke.
Underpass, go सब सारे यहाँ है.
Throwing flashbang. Grenade out.
Clear market.
Counter-terrorists win.
Roger that. Let's move out. Throwing fire. Grenade out. Incendiary. Throwing smoke. Throwing flashbang. Throwing fire. Throwing a grenade. Flashbang.
क्या लग के भेड़ के टकेगी.
Terrorists win.
का शॉट रहेगा जहाँ एम कर रहा है वहाँ बंदा पिक कर रहा है. सही बोला.
Move it, son. Smoke. Incendiary out.
Underpass.
Deploying flashbang. Deploying flashbang. shall regret this day.
क्यों मार रहा है गोलियां भाई मुझे? Let's go! Smoke! Throw in the flashbang! I'm throwing the flashbang. Flashbang! Throwing fire! क्या चीज़ है भाई ये कूजा भैंस? Throwing a grenade. Throwing a flashbang.
Terrorists win.
I am planting the bomb. We will defeat the mercenaries. I'm throwing smoke. Smoke! Grenade! Flashbang! Smoke! Throwing fire!
Two shot.
Activating the bomb.
Bomb has been planted.
Flashbang! Smoke! The bomb is sticking down.
Terrorists win.
ये शन्नो बाजी को पता नहीं क्या हो गया, ऐसे इतना खाना से पूरा हो जाता है। Valkyrie Palace.
I'm throwing a flashbang.
Terrorists win.
We will drive them from our lands. Go, my brothers.